Welcome to an introduction to the SWIFT feature, Strong and Positive School Culture. Hi, I'm Dan.
And this is Allison. As you'll recall, this domain is one of 5 evidence-based concepts that, when implemented together, transforms teaching and learning for success of all students. Integrated Educational Framework has 2 features, fully integrated organizational structure and strong and positive school culture. Today we are exploring strong and positive school culture.
Strong and positive school culture is about 4 big ideas. First, strong and positive school culture means that all staff share responsibility for student outcomes. Second, general and specialized educators teach together and collaborate on how best to meet the need of all students. Third, strong and positive school culture is about demonstrating culturally responsive practices that ensure the strengths of diverse students are recognized and valued. Fourth, strong and positive school culture is accomplished by understanding, recognizing, and valuing each child's many strengths and providing the supports he or she needs to be a full participant in all school activities.
Overall, the research illustrates the important ways in which the culture of schools influence student achievement. Effective school reform is achieved by implementing teaching practices that consider all learners and pay attention to factors of diversity. Teaching practices that consider all learners and pay close attention to differences inherent to academic, cultural, linguistic, and socioeconomic diversity contribute to effective school reform. Culture of schools is a strong influence on student achievement. Additionally, co-teaching is associated with strong outcomes for both participation and achievement for students with disabilities.
How are we going to create a strong and positive school culture? Let's unpack these 5 practices that I recommended to get started. Practice number 1, foster collaborative relationships among staff. Practice 2, create a shared vision and set of values among stakeholders. Practice 3, identify ways for all staff to contribute to student outcomes. Practice 4, ensure all students have access to extracurricular opportunities. And practice 5, demonstrate culturally responsive practices.
Practice 1, foster collaborative relationships among staff. For this practice, first you need to schedule time for teachers to plan together, collaborate, and co-teach. Co-teaching arrangements should be based on student needs. Collaborative planning helps maximize the reach of talent and contribute to professional growth within the school. Often, general and specialized educators have unique talents and areas of expertise. When they plan and teach together, students get the value of both a content expert and intervention expert who is able to suggest appropriate accommodations as needed. In order to ensure general and specialized educators have time to plan together, one SWIFT partner school started by arranging specials like art and music so that the adults who work with students, that is, general educators, specialized educators, instructional assistants, and support staff, have 40 minutes at the end of the day to meet and plan. This planning time was a new part of their schedule. Let's discuss, how could your schedule be organized to help maximize opportunities for collaboration? What types of co-teaching teams could be configured to accelerate learning? In addition to allocating time to be able to work together, you'll want to attend to how you establish expectations for teachers to collaborate. It's not enough to just build time into the schedule. Forming collaborative relationships among staff has to be valued and expected among staff. Let's discuss, what norms and expectations do you need to maximize your planning, teaching, and reflections? Once collaborative teaching and planning is established at the school, it's important to provide opportunities for staff to share and reflect on their experiences. Consider how co-teachers can extend their personal experiences with the larger faculty. Reflect on what aspects of co-teaching were effective and which aspects may require additional support.
Practice 2, create a shared vision and set of values among stakeholders. Create consensus when introducing new practices. This practice is of particular importance in answering the following question. What is it that you want your school to be about? What do you want for students, staff, families, and our community to achieve? When introducing new practices, it is important to reflect on how the practice is aligned with the school's vision and values, and whether or not it helps achieve the goals. In order to create consensus, you must provide opportunities for school staff members to define and reflect on their shared values. What is the vision for the school? How can you ensure all stakeholders are willing to embrace and work towards that vision? For example, one Swift partner district had staff create their vision with pictures and words. This approach allowed the group to look for common themes and capture what they wanted their school and community to be about. Spend a moment discussing, what is your shared vision and values? Set goals related to the vision. When new tasks or initiatives emerge, reflect on how or if they relate to the school's vision. When identifying and reflecting on the school's vision, it's important to include all stakeholders, including families, students, and community members. In a Swift Partner example, one school took their draft vision statement and priorities outside during student drop-off and pickup times. The students and families were able to participate by casting their votes in the drop-off line.
Practice 3. Identify ways for all staff to contribute to student outcomes. Recognize that all staff members collectively contribute to student outcomes and identify ways staff strengths can be leveraged. In order to recognize all staff members' contributions to school success, you must start by understanding the strengths of each adult in the building, so you can think about how best to leverage these strengths. For example, in one school, the school custodian excelled at forming positive relationships with students, so he began serving as a mentor who checked in with a group of students throughout the day. It's also important to ensure we capitalize on others who are in our building less frequently, for example, social workers, volunteers, or substitutes. One Swift Partner school made a concerted effort to formally include the bus drivers in the school-wide positive behavior support plan. They made sure to teach the expectations on the bus, extend the same acknowledgement system to the bus, and have the bus driver provide feedback to the school team. At another school, extra acknowledgement tokens were in a basket by the district sign-in notebook. This way, itinerant staff could take tokens and participate in catching the students being good while they were in the building. Let's discuss, how can we leverage the strengths of the adults in our building and include all staff in contributing to student outcomes? Once you identify ways for all staff to contribute to student outcomes, you should formalize the expectations so that the practice sustains over time. One way to do this is to consider your hiring and evaluation process. For example, include in job descriptions examples of how staff members will be expected to contribute to student outcomes. Discuss, are there things that we agree upon as important values and actions known to those who become employees in our district? Does the evaluation process take this into consideration? It is also important to positively acknowledge and reinforce all staff members' contributions. For example, at one school, the principal left handwritten notes of praise and encouragement for staff members anytime he saw them using their strengths to support positive student outcomes. How can you acknowledge all staff members' contributions to positive student outcomes at your school?
Practice 4. Ensure all students have access to extracurricular opportunities. When you think about this practice, go deeper than just thinking about whether notice of extracurricular opportunities has been provided to students and families. Look at the participation rate data to further investigate whether students have access to extracurricular opportunities. If you have historically marginalized groups who are not participating at comparable rates to others, it may be that you could use existing resources in a new way to enable more participation. For instance, one Swift school recognized that school-sponsored community events were not well attended because of transportation issues. The leadership team partnered with a local church to borrow vans that could transport up to 15 people at a time. Strategic apartment complex clubhouses were selected as pickup and drop-off locations so more families could attend.
Practice 5. Demonstrate culturally responsive practices. One step in demonstrating culturally responsive practices is assessing your current practices and using the data to continuously improve your practices to be responsive to and supportive of students' and families' cultures. One way to assess your practices is to ask staff, students, and families to complete a survey related to culturally responsive teaching practices. What might that look like? It may mean questioning your own beliefs and assumptions. It also means thinking about what steps you can take to better understand the culture of your students and their families. Let's discuss, how do you currently assess culturally responsive practices? What steps could you take to increase your awareness of your own beliefs and assumptions and to become more culturally responsive to your students and families?
So we just covered the 5 practices that are good launching points for addressing a strong and positive school culture. Let's debrief for a moment. Why is creating a strong and positive school culture important? Discuss what strengths are already in place at your school. Discuss opportunities for growth. Set goals and next steps.